Hey, storytellers and AI enthusiasts, Marigold here, and I'm back with the second segment of our journey into the enchanting world of Willow Creek and the AI Writers Connection channel. In the first segment, we dived into this shared universe, exploring the various facets like the winery, the flower shop, even maybe a Bigfoot or two, maybe out in the forest somewhere. Today, we're taking it a step further. We're going to be generating the 21st chapter of this story that's set in Willow Creek. I'm going to be reviewing the story beats that were already generated, plus, we're going to be loading them into Sudowrite Story Bible and then crafting some prose. It's going to be an exciting blend of AI creativity and storytelling finesse. Stay tuned. As you can see, I am back inside of my Sudowrite. And so I have Sudowrite right here behind me, right here. And I'm going to be playing around here inside of Chat GPT-4. It is the collaborative world of Willow Creek. And remember, we left off with it generating chapter 19 and chapter 20 before it actually stopped generating. Since it did that, I'm going to have to feed the information to the LLM again because remember earlier how it gave me the little red stop here that told me that I'd already reached my quota for the X number of questions that I can actually ask the LLM? I think it is back up to 50 questions again. I very rarely hit that. Maybe once in a blue moon I'll hit that because usually I'm generating a few chapters and then I'm reading up on them, making sure that my beats are where I want them. And then I might be generating some and then I'll come back to Chat GPT-4. But since I'm actually doing this video, I'm trying to do all of the beats together so that y'all can see what that whole process looks like. And I apologize if I cough or clear my throat. I am actually getting over a really bad virus. Bear with me. So I'm going to go back up to the top and remember where it said to continue with the chapters and keep in mind that Sarah and Luke's happy for now or happy ever after ending needs to close this story off. And then I wanted to kick off Robert's story with that mystery girl and maybe that mystery girl disappears right in front of them. That's what I want this specific chapter to end with on 21. So here we're going to say continue with chapter 20. Following the guidelines given, and in addition, provide some dialogue that fits the needs of the beat. And here I'm saying note chapter 21 is the end of Sarah and Luke's story, and it should kick off with a new mystery for the town. And remember, we want that cameo for Robert and the young woman that's found in the forest, but we want her to disappear. And that way it leaves them a little bit confused. So here I'm going to go ahead and say that it should kick off with a new mystery for the town of Willow Creek with the cameo of Robert and the young woman. And I'm going to say who was found in the forest. And she disappears now or fades. Now they don't know what happened to her. I'm a little curious to see how the LLM is going to handle that. Now, if she disappears, maybe she transforms into a tree or into another animal. Maybe she has something going on in her body where she's maybe a changeling and she keeps changing and maybe her body isn't stable. Maybe she's cursed. I don't know, but that is definitely something that we can play with for the second book. So I'm going to say she disappears or fades out of sight. I'm going to go ahead and change that and state that that her form begins to flicker. So, what I've input in there is that the young woman who was found in the forest prior is in her form and her form begins to flicker, changing from human to animal. She can't keep her human form. Maybe she's cursed. So let's see what it gives us for chapter 21 in this instance. And remember, we want it to wrap it up, and this is kicking off the next story. Okay, I'm reminding the LLM that this chapter is going to end with Sarah and Luke's story, and it's going to kick off the next book for Robert and the Mystery Woman for book two. Let's see if the LLM, now that it has come back after that restriction of waiting until my questions reloaded, let's see if it keeps up with the process that it was doing before. Now it is showing that it is 9 a.m. I'm not sure if I want it to really be 9 a.m. Maybe I want it to be later in the evening, but I need to make a decision on what time I want it to be. It is 9 a.m. here, but what time is it up here? It's Wednesday at 10 p.m. Now they find her, and this one ends with a visit that reveals the woman is a treant, okay, guardian of the spirit world for the forest. They ponder the implication. This will need to be scrubbed a bit. Let's leave it day and we'll see what happens with her being out or how that takes place. So in the town square, Sarah and Luke they are going to reflect on their journey. I'm not real crazy about that. I would rather them maybe have breakfast or a brunch. Maybe they're all eating. So let's revise that. Or I'll actually revise that myself whenever we get to that chapter later. The woman's form begins to flicker, struggling to maintain her human appearance. I like that. And let's see, Luke is saying, let me try something. His attempt to stabilize her form reveals the complexity of her condition. And let's see, you're safe here. We'll help you. And I really want her to transform. She's cursed, bound to the forest spirit. Let's see. Luke exchanges a knowing look, understanding the need to investigate the curse. Let's see. As they prepare to leave, the woman's form stabilizes, revealing an animalistic appearance. Okay, that's cool. We'll find a way to help you. That's already been said once before. And the circle begins anew. This right here with the mystery person saying that the circle begins anew, this we don't know is happening if the characters can't hear this. So, this right here, when you're in limited third person POV or when you're in first person POV, if your main character whose head that you're in has no way of knowing that this mystery figure has said the cycle begins anew, if they can't hear that, then it's not happening in your book. Now, if this is an all knowing third person point of view where it is a narrator telling the story, then yes, you can use that kind of wording. But if it is third person limited or first person, then no, your character would have to actually hear that statement. So I'll make a decision on how I want this to be done. Now, it could be something that Luke says, or it could be something that Robert says, or the young lady could say. So I'm curious to see what direction that will go. So, one of the things that I want to show you is that I actually took all of this information, I copied it, and I actually took it into Atticus. Now, if I was on my Mac, I would be using Vellum to organize all of this. And because I do a lot of collaborative writing with Cece and we go back and forth, this happens to just be a process that I like to use. I like to go in there and I like to know what my shared world information was, my list of Willow Creek places. I want to know what template that I used. I want to know more information about my monster romance series. I want to look at that early concept. And then, of course, I have Sarah's name here. I have Luke's information here. And then I even have Robert's information where it talks about his revised backstory, his super bloodline. So I want to have information that's real specific to my main characters. I even have the demons information in here just at a quick glance so that whenever I'm either going in and generating prose, if I have a question, I can look in here, or I especially use it whenever I am doing full-blown edits. I will revert back to my list of characters and the information that I have here contained so that I know that I am keeping to those specific details about my characters, the location, and some of that backstory and lore. Now, you'll notice that I have a main character list, and just like what I had inside of my Chat GPT-4, this is the exact same stuff. I just copied and pasted it from Chat GPT-4 straight into Atticus. And I did that again just so that I have it at a quick glance. Now, I altered this specific outline that was 381 words. I took that along with my list of Willow Creek places and a little bit of the backstory and lore, and I created a Sudowrite character list. And I had to condense it to where I had 700 words because Sudowrite does not allow me to go over that. If you notice, I have removed any occurrence of what color my character's hair is or their eye color. And I try to keep that really curbed. And I'm okay if it's in the first couple of chapters, but I really don't want to read over and over again about my character having red hair, brown hair, blonde hair. I don't wanna read about how her green eyes are piercing or his blue eyes are piercing or glaring or hers are sparkling. I don't wanna read that. I wanna read the actual story rather than what their eyes are doing. So I try to avoid that specific kind of information whenever I am working inside of the different LLMs. You will notice that I have the personality information for Meyer-Briggs in here, and I do tend to like to have that in there. I also have archetypes. So Lena, who is one of my stagnant characters, she is the sage. I have Samuel Green, who is a guardian. I have Luna Martinez, who is the mystic. So all of these, even the jester, the innocent, the explorer, their caregiver, the rebel, the enchanter, and the hero. Now, I'm curious as to how he's a hero, because usually your hero is going to be the love interest. But in this case, the hero is a firefighter. So I'm curious to see how he's going to come into play. And maybe it's just the type of persona he has. Now, Leo could end up becoming a character later on. Maybe I want to explore Leo to be the cameo for the end of book two. And maybe I wanna give him his love story in book 3. So one of the things that you do is you wanna keep an eye out for the different characters that you might want to use for future books, and I do that because once the characters are in, say, book 1, book 2, and you go into using a character for book 3, if they're already familiar with the character, then give that character his or her love story, and that way you're keeping everything self-contained. Here we have our information about Willow Creek. We have a little bit of information about the lore. We even have the information about the fire of redemption because remember, Sarah was actually the young girl who caused that tragic fire that led to her lifelong quest for redemption because her mother passed and her father was burned. So she feels very guilty. Now, I had to condense some of this information just so that I could hit that 700 word count up here. If you recall, when we come up here to look at our list, notice how it's all filled out here. I have all the descriptions here, but that's 391 words. And with the almost 400 words that were already there, I didn't have enough word space along with the lore and the character list to be able to create that pseudo-write story Bible character list. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and highlight this because I want all of this information. And this is what I'm actually going to put inside of my story. Now, I can actually remove this because Lynn Jordan and I spoke, and she let me know a little bit more information about her girl at Willow Creek, whose name is Evelyn. I know that there's a Willow Creek Cafe and then the vineyard. She doesn't have a name for her vineyard couple yet. She keeps going back and forth on the name, but once she does pin those down, then she and I are going to collaborate. And that way, some of her characters that she uses that are her main characters, like the young lady in the flower shop, she will become a little side character or an extra character in my book. Maybe Robert or maybe even Luke goes to purchase some flowers and gets it from the flower shop where Evelyn is, which is one of Lynn's characters. Now, her character will not be a main character in my book. She will just be a side character only because I know that she lives within the world of, um, Willow Creek, and that way we can have that connection between our books. And again, this is a shared world. If you join the AIWC and want to participate in the shared world for Willow Creek, and you don't want to use other people's characters, you are more than it's more than fine for you to not do that. It is 100% up to you on how you want to write your story. If you want to participate that way, you can. If you would rather not, you are not tied down to having to write your story in any one specific way. So let me go ahead and copy this. And I am actually going to come over here to make grab my other page. And I need to create a brand new project. As you can see, I have all of these that are here. So I need to create a new one. So I'm going to hit new and it automatically numbers my projects. So I have 207 projects currently, but I'm going to name this one Willow Creek 1. That way I can keep up with it and I know who my characters are. Now, notice how here under Story Bible, this little radial button is turned off. I'm just going to move this slider and I just turned it on. Now I can turn it off if I want to, but in this case, I want to turn it on because I'm going to my character list and I'm going to go ahead and plug in my list. Now, remember when I said that I had to make sure that my word count was where it needed to be? So it's at 680 out of 700 words. And if you notice, I really don't have a lot of information about all of my characters, but I do have characters in here so that I know that the LLM can go back and take a look at who my characters are, the town, a little bit of information about the lore, so that I know that the information that is used within the book is going to follow what I want it to do. So, again, take a look at the information that you have and decide what's going to work for you and for your story. And again, here's our places or locations. So, I'm going to go ahead and let's take a look at Atticus again. The other thing that I like to do is I really like to take a look at my characters and what kind of a style guide I want for them. So these are some of my standard run-of-the-mill different guides that I like to use over and over again, and I will make changes to them depending on the needs of my character. So for these, I am saying to write a gritty first person narrative perspective. Now, I could write this in first person or I could write it in third. And that is something that one of the authors needs to decide. Now, does that mean that if I write it in first, everybody has to write theirs in first person? No. If you want to write yours in third, write it in third or in first person. Write in whatever POV you are most comfortable with. For this specific story, I am going to write it in first person, and I'm going to do it in first person past. So I'm going to have to decide which one I want to use. Now, I do the fact that this one says to generate the narrative in a complex, gritty romance within a dark supernatural underworld. Now, willing to bet this might be a little bit too long, but we'll see. So I'm going to go into my style, and under my style, I'm just going to plug that in. So integrate sharp dialogue. Let's see what it left off. So it says integrate sharp dialogue, and it left off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words. So I'm going to take this information right here at the end, and I'm going to take this, and I know that I'm going to put this elsewhere. Now, do I want escalating sexual tension? No, because this is not erotica. Now, do I want detailed internal thoughts? That's really not necessary either. Now, what else can I put in here? Now, I could put in here to write a gritty first person narrative from an ancient supernatural leader's perspective. Now, that could be part of, say, my genre. But if I do that, I'm going to say write a gritty urban fantasy first person narrative. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to go back into Sudowrite and let's go into the genre. Now, notice how I'm not going to put anything in my synopsis. I don't have anything in brain dump either. So there's nothing in brain dump because I am not going to be generating a synopsis. I'm only going to be using my genre and my style. And if you hover over the question marks, it lets you know what it's going to impact. So my genre would impact my outline, my beats, and my prose. All that I'm concerned with at this point is the prose. So if you hover over brain dump, it's not impacting my prose. Genre impacts my prose, and so does style. Style also impacts my prose. But if I look at my synopsis, it is generated off of the brain dump. If I look at my characters here, the section is generated based on the synopsis. I do want my character list because my character list comes into play with my prose. So let's take a look. Scroll down a little bit more. Now, when you come to your outline, you have to activate it. And because I have a 21 chapter body of work, I could just say to insert a template. And if I tell it to do that, see how it flashes? Wait until it finishes flashing. It will come back up. It is something that they are taking a look at and that they will take care of at some point. Now I'm going to scroll all the way back down to my outline. And notice how it says Act 1 and it says Chapter 1, 2, 3, and then I have 4, 5, and then it says etc. If I were to actually come in and try to add a new document, I could only add 5. So I could only generate 5 different chapters. I don't want to do that because I want more than 5. So I want 21. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. And I know now that is 10, 15, 20, and I'm going to do one more so that I have my 21 chapters. Now, does it matter that they're not numbered 1 through 21? No. Let me show you. There you go. I have chapters 1 through 21. Now, one of the things that you have to do is activate your outline and so that you can pull up your chapter. I have activated my outline. This is all that I'm going to put in my outline. I'm putting absolutely nothing else. I'm not even putting any summaries in there because I'm going to rely on my beats to tell my story. So let's go ahead and come down here. I'm going to ask it to create just one chapter right now, which is chapter 1. But if you look, you can see that I can scroll and I could generate and bring up chapter 21 if I wanted. But I'm going to do 1. And I do that just so that I can open up the cards. Now I know that I have chapter 1 and I could input my beats right here. And I have up to 2,000 words for my beats. But before I do that, I'm very much a creature of habit. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to start adding all of my chapters. Now, why do I do that? Again, I do it because, like I said, I'm very much a creature of habit. And I tend to like to flow through them rather quick. And this process seems to work for me. Again, you have to find what process works for you and what makes sense for you as you are setting up your content. And let's see, chapter 9. And I will do this until I get all 21 chapters, and then I will start filling them in. So let's see, I am on chapter 10, so I need 11, and there's 12. Let's do 13. Now, what happens if, say, I'm on chapter 14 and I accidentally hit 16 and I miss 15? Don't sweat it. All you have to do is click 15. And if you want to put it in order, just drag and drop it. It's as simple as that. Say it was something that needed to move up. All you have to do is move it where you need the specific chapter. And why do I point that out? Because there are times when you might have generated something and maybe you need to bridge something. Maybe you need to bridge chapter 7 and 8. You need a chapter in there. So then you could name chapter 7, 7A, and then add an additional chapter 7 to be 7B, just so that you could keep your sequence. It's a good way to be able to drag and drop the content. So we are on 16, so let's go to 17. And 18, we are almost there, guys. So we have 15, 16, 17, 18. Now we have 19, 20, one more, and there we are. Here on chapter 1, notice how I have my chapter generator. If you hit this little X right here, it will just give you the area to type in. Now, notice how when I go to all my other chapters, I can't generate. I have nowhere to put my beats. So if this happens to you, come all the way back down to your outline. And when you come down, select and then add your chapter. And you may have to remove one, and that's okay. But it will put that back on for all of your chapters again. So keep that in mind. Now, see how it brought this one down at the bottom? All I have to do is click the 3 dots and hit delete and confirm it. And here I am. Now, will this work? Say I put in my chapter beats and for some reason I forget and I X out. I can still do the same thing and then load my beats. So let's go ahead and go into my 21 beats. And I do have my chapter 1, which is here. And again, I pulled this straight out of my Chat GPT-4. And I'm going to go straight here and I'm going to put my beat in here. Now, I do have to put at least one here where my beat is. If I don't, let me show you what happens. I know that all of these starting with beat 1 is those are my beats. I know that all of this is part of my header. But if I come down and I check my beats and always check your beats, notice how my estimated words are at 3,800. Well, if I do not put that number 1 here in front of beat 1, it's going to think that my chapter 1 Sarah Jennings POV, it's going to think that right there. It's going to think that is my first beat, and it is not. All you have to do is come down, go to your beat, and put 1, and then come back and look at your beats. Notice how your header is all up in just your header. So all of your header is up here. And then this should only be your beats. Now you can also hide this, and it makes it a little bit easier to see what you're doing. Now I have all my beats here. I am actually going to go back and I am going to grab something. I have a little prompt that I like to use for my prose story elements. And I do this because I like to have a specific percentage of some of my story elements. Now, will I change this sometimes? Sure. Sometimes I will. Sometimes I won't. In this case, I'm just going to grab this generic template that I have. I'm going to grab everything up to this bottom section here. And I'm actually going to take that into my header. Now, one thing I do want to caution you is that this information here, it is still in my header, but that header information, everything that is up here, all of this header information is sent off to the LLM as an input. So the system is reading what you are sending and it is charging you for what is being sent out. Of course, it is generally about half the amount of what the input is that you receive. So your input is what you're sending and your output is what the LLM is sending back to you. Again, I don't mind burning the words for some of my specific instructions. Now, do I use this on all of mine? No, but there are certain areas that I like to use it on. And I do like to use some of the different prompts inside of Story Engine's Story Bible. Now, keep in mind, I have a genre and a style here that I've already listed. And if you take a look at what your beats are running off of for the prose, you want to take a look at what that is going to be impacted. This section is generated based on it is now telling you your beats. Remember, not your prose, but your beats. If you are generating beats with story engines, Story Bible, and you are using your brain dump as maybe a storage area and you keep generating beats and you're thinking, oh my gosh, why is this information in here and it shouldn't be? If you are generating beats here and you have notes in your brain dump that maybe will introduce information that you don't want in there too early, then keep in mind that you may not want that stuff in your brain dump if you are generating your beats inside of Story Bible. Anytime you are generating beats, it's going to pull from your brain dump, your genre, your style, your synopsis, and your character list and the outline. Keep that in mind. So if it's pulling something that you don't like or something that's out of order, go back and look at those specific areas. I'm not generating that way, so I'm not too worried about that because I have nothing in those areas anyway. But I do need to correct something. I have chapter 1, Sarah Jennings, and I'm going to say first person, limit. If I was doing third person, it would be third person limited POV. This is going to be Sarah Jennings' first person POV, and I am going to ask it to do past tense. Now, why do I do that? Because I know by default it generally will do past tense, but when I don't have past tense on there, it tends to every now and then throw in a few beat strides as present tense, and then I get to flip that content from present to past. So I make a conscious effort to try and ensure that I'm listing that one, it is her first person POV and it is past tense. Now, I do have void prose about the sun. Let's see if it behaves. Sometimes it does, sometimes the LLM doesn't. But again, let's check our beats. We know that all this information here is up in my header, and I know that only my beats have 10. So let's take a look at our beats. So, beat 1. The hook, the opening, it opens with action. That's what I want it to do. Sarah Jennings, a firefighter, races to extinguish a fire at the forest's edge, reflecting on the recent surge in such incidents. So rather than saying that she's reflecting on that, remember she has a partner. So let's go and look at our character list. Remember, her partner is another firefighter, Leo. So we're going to use Leo. We're adding him to our character list. So let's go back to Sudo. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go ahead and add a D. And I'm adding Leo, and he is also a firefighter. And I have Evelyn Archer, but I have changed her name because we already have another Evelyn, because Lynn has a character named Evelyn. So I'm going to change that name as well. And I went with Lena Murphy. And I have that in my character list now also. So if I were to go into my character list, I can come down here and I can see that I have Lena right here. And it's important if you make a change to your outline or to your characters, make sure that you're making that change all over your body of work. Otherwise, that's how you end up with multiple names that are incorrect. Now, I could have left Evelyn's name there, and then after the book was generated, I could have made one massive change and changed the name all the way across the book at one control find, replace the name and be done with it. And I might do that for the rest of the names, but because I've already changed it in the character list, I'm going to have to be conscientious and make sure that I'm changing it now. So let's take a look. We know that we have a firefighter. She's racing over there to extinguish a fire at the forest edge. Maybe we can say Leo is on the scene. The two of them, they don't reflect, they discuss. Discuss, and I'm going to say dialogue, the recent surge of fire incidents or of incidents. And I'm going to just say fire in parentheses. Now, I'm going to want it to transition. And with that little transition, here it says her swift action to douse the flames leads to the discovery of an unusual burn pattern. So, again, I'm okay with the way that this is moving. I'm curious to see what kind of banter it's going to have. So, let's go to beat two. Investigating the scene. Let's see. Investigating the scene, Sarah's instincts suggest arson. And I'm just going to say, and Leo agrees. She collects samples. So she's going to collect samples. Her suspicion is growing. We want to transition her findings, compelling her to consult with. So here we have Evelyn. Now, again, I have to make that change on that name to Lena Murphy, or I can just leave it as Lena because remember, I have her up at the top. The town's the historian about similar historic events. And I'm going to say that had the same pattern. Now, then we can say Evelyn reveals past incidences about it. Remember, I have to change Evelyn's name. This is how mistakes get made when somebody changes information and they don't change it all the way across. Lena reveals past incidences of unexplained fires, hinting at a supernatural cause, but not stating it's supernatural. The patterns are all the same. We are going to transition Sarah's skepticism clashes with the revelation, and it's driving her to probe further into the town's history. Now, at this point, where is Leo? Did she and Leo part ways? So, if they did, I want to know what happens. So, if Lena right here, if if she is going to consult with Lena, her transition, she her transition is her findings compel her to consult with Lena. So in the transition, we're going to have Leo leaves, and then I'm going to state that Sarah's findings compel her to consult with Lena, the town's historian. Now let's go down a little. Now Leo leaves, and we can say that he drives the fire truck. Now we can have Sarah Jennings, a firefighter and investigator. So she's going to race to extinguish the fire at the forest's edge. So I'm going to state that she saw the smoke, so she races over. Now, remember, I just said here that because she saw smoke. That can confuse the LLM. Think about your order of operation. What came first? Now, she didn't arrive in a truck. First, she had to see the smoke, which sent her to investigate the fire. So be careful with your order of operation in the things that you say. So here, Sarah Jennings, a firefighter and investigator, spots smoke. And remember, there have been fires, and that has been indicated in the beats. So now let's go ahead and go to beat 3. She reveals past incidents. So she's looking at the fire, hinting at supernatural causes. The patterns are all the same. See, the skepticism is there. Number 4, Sarah determined to protect Willow Creek stems from her childhood trauma. It drives her deeper into the mystery to solve the odd patterns. Her transition, she resolves to lead her to so her leads or her clues sent her to Robert Hathorne. Now, how is that? Now, maybe when Sarah is clashing, looking at the revelation, looking at what's happening, and she's probing further into the town history, maybe, and she sees images of Robert in the background of other fire patterns, which she finds odd. Now, remember how often people say that guilty parties show up at the scene of the crime sometimes? So we want to plant some Easter eggs here and we can show him being there. Now, let's say Sarah's determined to protect Willow Creek. So now remember, she saw the images. That's going to be written in. She's going to confront Robert, seeking his input as a local businessman. And she wants to give him a chance to explain several prior images taken of other fires, mysterious fires. Now, maybe not all of them could have been him, but we want to plant that seed. So here we have Robert expresses concern but remains evasive, and it heightens her suspicion. Sarah's frustration with Robert propels her to independently investigate the forest fires. She wants more information about it. Now, remember, the town knows about her history. So let's say he's defensive. So that could cut deep. So he's stating that he's defensive and points a finger back at Sarah, stating she's the only one he knows of who has started a fire. Now, that could really trigger Sarah. Sarah uncovers a strange symbol near the fire's origin that she didn't see prior, but is cool to the touch. Let's see. She's linking and she's thinking, wow, this is really weird. Now linking it to a super's activity. But Sarah doesn't know this. Linking it to, we can say, unusual activity. And maybe it's leading her to believe somebody's playing a trick. on her, the town, and the fire department. She doesn't take kindly to that. Now, the transition, so the discovery of that, let's see how we need to change that. The discovery of the symbol leads Sarah to believe she's close to uncovering the arsonist's identity. She feels that maybe there's a deeper meaning there, so I'm curious to see what the LLM will do. Sarah decides to keep the symbol discovery confidential, planning so she doesn't want the news to get wind of it. Planning, she plans to dive deeper into the forest for answer to see if she can find clues. And we'll say to see if she can find evidence or clues. And let's transition her. Her decision to investigate alone sets her on a path directly toward potential danger. Let's have her, let's say Leo calls her. We want to set that up. We want to set up that at least Leo has offered to come help her, but she declines and hangs up the phone. Ends the call, promising to fill him in. It, it opens the door for her to be put in danger. So let's see what 8 is. So she ventures into the forest. She finds more clues suggesting at we don't want it to be a supernatural involvement. Remember, she doesn't know anything about the supernatural world right now, suggesting unusual involvement. Now, I am going to state here that Sarah knows nothing of the masquerade. So she's not aware of supers at this point, anyway. Her findings in the forest set the stage for a potential confrontation with the unknown, and the unknown could be so unknown elements of magic she's not aware of. As she leaves the forest, Sarah feels watched, and she feels like there's an ominous presence lurking there, unseen. Her unease hints at a hidden observer, leading her to question her safety. Now, instead of saying a shadowy figure is briefly glimpsed among the trees, leaving Sarah's discovery and her next step shroud in mystery, that's not enough. I can say that a shadowy figure is briefly glimpsed, let's say Sarah, while investigating. She spots a shadowy figure among the trees. Leaving Sarah, let's see, shroud in mystery. We don't want to do that. But what I will say is she must decide fight or flight. So this transition, it's deciding intensifies the mystery, compelling Sarah to pursue the new lead despite the risks. She gives chase. Okay. So to me, this gives more of a cliffhanger, something that I would feel more comfortable with. Now let's take a look. I want to show you. I am at 852 words out of 2,000. I could fill this all the way up to 2,000 words if I want to, but I'm okay with where I'm at right now. Now, I know she's at Willow Creek Fire Station, downtown Willow Creek, and I'm also going to say that she's at in the forest. So let's scroll down. We know that we have our number one right here. Remember, you have to have at least the one. Notice how I don't have everything else numbered. You just have to know that your first beat needs to be numbered. If you want to number all the others, by all means, number them. This just happens to be the way that I'm doing this one. Maybe tomorrow I might number them. I don't know. You just never know. But again, make sure that everything under your header is actually your instruction, and then make sure that everything in your beats is your beats. And you can hide this. Now, when I go to generate, I want to take a look at the different models. Now, I can generate on any of these models, but I really do prefer most accurate. Now, it is the most expensive model, but it is my preference, and if you take a look, I have 5,000,000 over 5,000,000 credits right now, so I can definitely burn some words, and so I'm not too worried about that. So I'm gonna hit most accurate, and I'm going to go ahead and generate, and let's see what it does. Smoke billowed above the forest. I knew something was wrong. My heart raced as I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, the fire truck's engine roaring beneath me. Now, I had Leo driving and I had her driving in her vehicle. Now, did the LLM pay attention to that? No, but that's okay. I can still make a change. I'm a writer. I can make a change to that. So my heart raced as I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, the fire truck's engine roaring beneath me. Now, is it a fire truck for the great big fire truck, or is it just a little normal tin truck that she's driving? I don't know, so I definitely have to keep reading to see. The fire truck's engine roaring beneath me. Weaving through the streets of Willow Creek, I couldn't shake the gut feeling that this wasn't just another ordinary fire. I could leave this, but I'm probably not going to leave that part. I'll probably kill that whenever I'm doing my edits later. Right now, it's generating beats 7 and 8 together. Continuing on, notice how it says damn it. It does that because I have colloquial language listed inside of either my genre or my style guide. When you list that, it will tend to give you some very current language and often it will have some cursing. Damn it, I muttered under my breath as I pulled up to the scene, screeching to a halt at the forest's edge. Leo, my fellow firefighter, was already there, sweat pouring down his face as he wrestled with the hose. Sarah, he called out, relief washing over him. About time you showed up. What took you so long? Traffic, I shot back, sarcasm dripping from my words. as I grabbed my gear and rushed to his side. Again, I like the way that it is bringing my characters across. They don't sound like each other. Now, this chapter ended at 2,280 words, so I'm okay with this. This chapter is one that I'm okay with, and I definitely want to keep this chapter. So let's take a look at what else is going on here. This is only the first stride of beats 1 and 2. Tell me about it. I agreed, helping him aim the powerful jet of water at the raging inferno before us. The fire hissed and crackled, fighting back against our efforts. But we were relentless, and soon the flames began to die down, leaving behind a charred wasteland. Nice work, Leo panted, wiping the sweat from his brow. This is the second time that he has had sweat, so when I go back in to edit this, I would be changing this. But something ain't right about these fires. Trust me, I know, I replied, scanning the scorched earth for any clues. It didn't take long before I spotted an unusual burn pattern in the blackened soil, an almost deliberate, intricate design etched into the ground. Leo, look at this, I said, pointing to the strange markings. You ever seen anything like it? He frowned, crouching down beside me to examine the odd formation. No way, he murmured, shaking his head. This ain't natural. Someone's playing with fire. Okay, there's a pun there. I might leave that since this is a Willow Creek. Arson, I muttered, my jaw clenching in anger. It wasn't just the trees and wildlife at risk here. People's lives were on the line, too. I'm going to collect some samples. We need to figure out who's behind this, Leo agreed, standing up and brushing off his soot-covered knees. I'll take the truck back to the station. You good here? Go ahead, I nodded, already scraping bits of charred debris into small evidence bag. I've got work to do. As Leo drove away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease creeping up my spine. These fires were no accident, and I had a burning suspicion that they were somehow connected to Willow Creek's history, a history that was shrouded in legend and mystery. Okay, so I'm okay with saying connected to the history, but maybe not to legend and mystery. Maybe it's shroud in mystery because maybe there were past fires that were unsolved. So when I go back into edit, that's one of the things that I will actually change because she doesn't know about supers. So I would have to remove that and show another reason, which of course would be the unsolved prior fires. So then she's saying, time for a trip to the library. She could still go to the library because maybe she wants to research some of the past fires. And often libraries have information that you can look at on old newspapers or different, maybe film that has been taken that she can take a look at in the library. Or maybe she can jump on a computer there. So again, I can play with that or I can remove it. I just have to do what is going to be right for me. Now, remember, there's an intricate pattern. With that pattern, one of the things that I would do is probably describe that better. So, that is something that I would do as a writer. I will have to describe that pattern. And that would be another reason for her to take a trip to the library to see if she can identify what kind of pattern. And that would be a reason for her to go to the library to talk to the librarian there. So now we're transitioning into beats 3 and 4, which is our next stride pair. Now we're going from, I hope that she would be able to help answer. Time for a trip to the library, I muttered, determination hardening my resolve. Lena, the town's historian, would have answers, or at least I hope she would. Now, I would remove the determination because we all know that the LLM likes to make people say it with a determined voice. They have determination on their face, their eyes shine with determination. Again, that's one of those telltales that you want to get rid of. Make sure you're killing those determination. That should be on your list of to kill things. So, here under 3 4, the Willow Creek Library was a dusty, dim lit place, perfect for looking into the town's haunted past. Now, haunted can actually mean haunted as in a ghost or haunted as in unsolved fires. So, we could leave that there and have a play on those words if we wanted to. I found Lena Murphy, the town's historian, buried behind a mountain of books, her silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. Hey, Lena, I said, sliding onto the stool across from her. Got a mystery for you. She peered at me over her reading glasses and raised an eyebrow. You've caught my interest, Sarah. What's this about? Strange fires, I replied, pulling out the evidence bag with the charred debris. Found this at the scene today. An unusual burn pattern. Leo and I think it might be arson, but something about it feels off. Now, if she were actually investigating and say this was a really big city, then she may not be revealing this information to just anybody. This is a small town, so there's some level of trust here, and I'd probably need to build that up a little bit more to show that maybe Lena has been used in the past when it came to researching information that Lena is a resource that the fire department uses. So I would definitely write that in when I'm conducting my edits later. So here we have Lena took the bag, turned it over in her hands. I'll see what I can dig up. She disappeared into the stacks, leaving me to my thoughts. Now, again, she is releasing her evidence bag to this woman. And now, should she do that? Or what I would recommend her doing is maybe taking a picture with her phone and maybe sending that image to Lena so that Lena has the actual image. Now, the fire burn that might be something that she takes into the office to have analyzed through forensics. But I think that with Lena, it needs to actually be a picture that is going to be used. So that is something that I would change in here as well when I'm editing. And of course, I will show the editing process at some point, but I want to discuss some of this stuff right now, just so that at a quick glance, what I am seeing in this that will need to change. So my mind drifted back to that fatal night when I was just a child, the fire of redemption. Now, I would kill fire of redemption, or I would find another way to bring it up because that doesn't have any bearing right now. So it could have been something like back to that fateful night when I was just a child. Now, I might call that frightful night when I was just a child when the flames licked up the walls and covered the floor and was a living, breathing, beast. Now, I could definitely describe it like that and then show how it was all a result of her playing with the lighter. Now, do I have to say that she played with the lighter right now? No. I just wanna set that little clue right here that it is a night that has haunted her. I don't have to say that she started the fire yet. That's not information that the reader needs. What I need to do is give just enough information to pull my reader in. So here I would definitely change all this. I would change it to be more vivid and active, talk about how she remembers the smell, she remembers the heat on her skin, she remembers the crackling of the fire, it licking up the sides of the wall, the curtains going up in flame, and the wind current from the fire making it the blowback making it go back and forth. So again, I could put elements like that into that specific paragraph. Lena returned with a stack of old newspapers and documents. I found a few incidents that match your description, same strange burn patterns. Now, rather than a description, now if Lena could actually see a picture on the phone and they're able to make that connection, then that would be a better way to do this and something that is more modern. So here, any connection, I asked, scanning the yellow pages. Now, are they yellow or sepia? Or is it just that it's old or is it on film? So again, I would maybe change some of this to bring it into a more modern time frame. Hard to say, Lena admitted, but look at these photos. There's a man in the background of each one. She pointed to a figure lurking in the shadows, his features obscured by the smoke. It was Robert. Now, if his features were obscured by the smoke, how does she know it's Robert? I would need to make changes here, and I don't think I would have Lena make that comment. I would have maybe Sarah have an internal thought about, oh, there's people here, and then begin to look at the images and maybe spot the same figure over and over again and realize that it is Robert. And I think that would be a good way to do that rather than Lena, because Lena is not the fire investigator. Sarah is. So this whole line right here would have to be rewritten. Robert, I whispered, disbelief tightening my chest. He can't be involved in this, can he? Now, this right here might be internal thought. It might work better as an internal thought. Only one way to find out. Talk to him, Sarah, see what he has to say. Now, I would kill this because she doesn't need to be telling her what her thoughts are at this point. All she needed was for Lena to pull up the information on any patterns or past fires that maybe they can find online or in old newspapers. So all of this would have to change. And it wouldn't be real hard to change it. It would just be a little bit of phrasing and wording here and there, and you would have a viable chapter here. My determination hardened as I left the library, so we would definitely get rid of determination there. The weight of the town's safety on my shoulders. Now I do that because she should feel the weight of that, especially I know that the readers don't know at this point that she started the fire, but I like the fact that she's feeling the weight and she's wearing that on her shoulders and stating, I won't rest until I had answers and put an end to these fires for Willow Creek. If that line right there is going to be deserved, then it needs to be clear that there have been fires. Maybe in the past 4 weeks, there have been just as many fires. So adding something like that here would make this comment right here deserved. Right now, that comment has not been earned because we don't know that there are past fires that are current or if they're from 20 years ago. So we need to make that distinction. Robert's office was located in the heart of downtown Willow Creek. That is a really hard transition. So if she has identified that she wants to ask him questions, she should be in her vehicle and having some internal thought and some internal dialogue and going to Robert's place, or maybe she's picking up the phone to call and find out from Leo, hey, can you pull up information on Robert and his place of business and his residence? And that way, that would make it a little bit better there. Or if it's such a small town and she already knows where he is, then of course she could drive there. So here it talks about his office located in the heart of downtown Willow Creek. Okay, the LLM missed a great opportunity to provide some description and let us see what downtown Willow Creek looks like. I would definitely have a little bit more information here about what the town looks like because we can't visualize it if the author does not paint a picture. So I'd have to add some description in here. Come in, he called, his voice smooth as silk. Where is he? He's in a downtown office. What is he doing there? Is he an attorney? What's he doing? Does he work in a local printing store? Does he print flyers? I don't know what he does. Is he a mail person? I don't know. It's not clear here. So I would definitely make that decision when I'm editing. He looked up from his desk, his dark eyes narrowing slightly. What about them? So she automatically hits him about the fires. Strange patterns, I explained, showing him the evidence bag. Now, what good does the evidence bag do if it's just samples of the burn? The LLM did not hit the mark here. As a writer, I need to actually let him see the image and say, hey, you've been at all these fires. So I want to ask you a few questions. Let her buddy up to him and make him think, oh, she's wanting information from me and let's partner or something. So she needs to make him feel like she's his friend right now. So I would rewrite some of this. Some of it I can keep, some of it I would reword. Here, I clenched my fist in anger, flaring at his accusation. Let's see. So she's saying, then how do you explain this? And that's not clear either. What is he having to explain? His presence at all of the different locations? We need to make that clear. And then he says, coincidence? Perhaps. But if you're looking for someone to blame, don't forget that you're the one who's been starting fires around here. And again, that's a low blow. And that is actually something that would make the reader stop and take notice and think, oh, why is he saying that she's the one that starts fires when she's the firefighter? I clenched my fists, my anger flaring at his accusation. But before I could retort, the memory of the fire of redemption, we're not calling it the fire of redemption, the memory of that night came crashing down again. That painful reminder of guilt. Now, do I want to do it that way or do I just want to word it a little bit different? And that is exactly what would do when I go into edit this. Now, does that mean that my chapter's not worth it because I wanna make a lot of changes? No, I have the skeleton of this body of work. I am going to rewrite content. The core of it's going to still stay the same, but I am rewriting the content that I feel needs clarification or I feel does not fit or that I think needs to have more visual or descriptive wording so that I can build that picture and that tension. So, yeah, I do a lot of revision and rewrite in my bodies of work. And I can honestly say that I don't do that just with my AI generated work. I also do that with my non AI work. I do a lot of edits and revisions. I will, I still type some of my other stories because that's how I started those pen names with non AI written work. So I continue to write those bodies without AI. And then I have other bodies like this one that I'm going to write with AI. But regardless of which way I am writing with or without I still do a lot of revision. I do a lot of rewrite. And that is something that you will hear a lot of authors state. Get your main draft down, get the whole thing written, and then sit down and start doing your edits and do it one chunk at a time. So here she goes on and snaps. Fine, I snapped, turning my head. If you won't help me, I'll figure it out on my own. As I stormed out of Robert's office, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than met the eye. Okay, so that's pretty cliche, so I would kill that. And I was determined. So notice how we've had determined, I don't know, four to six times in only 4 strides. So that's why we often tell people take a look at the repetitive phrasing and words that you see here, because those are things that you will want to edit out. And oddly enough, it's not just AI that does that. I have comfort words when I'm writing non AI works. And those comfort words are things that I fall back on repeatedly in a body of work that I'm writing. And when I go back in to edit, I will actually find those as I'm reading and see that I'm using them repetitively. and then I put them on a list to take care of, and a lot of authors will call that their kill list because we'll put the words on that list because we're going to slay those words and strike them from our manuscript. Same thing with AI work. We have to do the same thing. Now, keep in mind, she's just stormed out. So I would kill this storming out because the AI tried to end that scene right there in that stride combination by having her storm out, but she hasn't officially left yet. So this whole section right here, I would kill because she's saying, fine, I'll figure it out on my own. And it sounds better to say, look, Sarah, I understand your concern, but I don't know anything about these fires. That would be a better transition. And that has her, she hasn't left yet. They're bantering back and forth. They're arguing about it. Now, here, talking about you're the firefighter here. Hell, you've even started fire once before. So it's bringing that in twice now. Now, why did it do that? And why is it repeating that information over and over again? So let me show you why it's doing that. If I go into my character list and I go in and I look at what I have in here, I already know because that is down here where it talks about the fire of redemption. So why did I leave this in here? Because I know that the LLM is going to pick up stuff from here. And if you have really specific information in your character list because you want the LLM to be aware of it, be conscientious that whatever you have in your character list, the LLM is going to read everything here inside of your character list, and you're going to see it sprinkled throughout your content. Already, the reference of the fire of redemption has already been stated 3 times, and it has been stated twice that she is the one that has started the fire or has started fires in the past and that she feels guilty. So, it wasn't the LLM's fault that it did that. It was my fault because I put it inside of the character list. Lesson learned. If you are putting stuff inside of your character list that's similar to this, just know that's why it's being repeated over and over again. The best way to handle this would be to completely kill everything in your character list that you don't need and just wrap everything inside of your beats. So for chapter 1, I just generated everything with my character list in here. The next time I generate, I'm actually going to generate without anything in my character list. And that's whenever I go in to generate chapter 2. Now, I'm taking a lot of time on chapter 1 because I want to walk you through what I'm seeing and why I am seeing it, because these are some of the same things that people are coming to me and telling me, hey, look, it's repeating something over and over again, and I don't want it to do that. If you don't want it to do that, then do not put the information in your character list or anywhere where it can pull it and use it repetitively. Wrap it in your beats one time and put it in quotation or in brackets and list it the one time. And that is the only time that it'll list it within that stride. So again, wrap everything in your beats or be very careful what you put inside of your character list. And you also have to be careful of what you put in your genre. If you are stating that in the genre, you're just stating that it is an urban fantasy romance, if you're doing that, then you're going to have it constantly try and make your characters fall in love with insta love. So be very careful what you're putting in your style and in your genre. So let's go back to that chapter, to chapter 1. And we know that we were on 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, actually. So let's go back and look at 5, 6. We know that Let's see. Lena, did you talk to him? Robert, yeah, he's about as helpful as a wet blanket. So we could have a conversation here. And that's okay. But I have to wonder what kind of connection is here because I feel like there's a little bit too much information going on between her and Lena. But if she grew up around Lena, maybe it's somebody that she confides in. So back to the scene of the crime, I replied, my resolve stilling. There has to be something we missed. Okay, here's another word that should go on your kill list, or this phrase, my resolve stilling. That's definitely one that I would put on there. As we trudged back to the forest, who is we? Lena should not be there. So Lena should not be out there at all. Remember, Lena is a gray haired woman with a bun. So again, you have to be careful how you have your information in your character list. So again, take a look at what's going on inside of your beats and in your character list. So here she's staring at the symbol, still in the forest. And this is her conversation with Leo. Okay, here she is. Looks like we got ourselves a pattern. We already know that. And remember, we've already listed that in our character list. We have talked about the pattern in our beats. So it is being repetitive. So if you're finding that things are repetitive, be really careful with what you have written where. So why don't we redo this chapter? And the best way to do that is I'm going to come here and I'm going to add another chapter here. And remember, it's going to send it all the way down to the bottom, but I'm going to name this chapter 1. I'm going to name this A, and I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom, and let's drag that up here. And we're going to drag this number 1 all the way up here and name it 1B. So here I have Leo, I have Sarah, Lena, Robert, and I have Leo, Robert, Lena, and Sarah. Okay. So I have all of my characters here. I have this information I'm going to copy again. This is everything that I have inside of my inside of my card right here for my generation. I'm going to put that here inside of my B card, and I'm going to call this B. And let's go down to our character list. Now remember, our character list has all this information. I'm going to kill it. Now we have nothing inside of the brain dump. We have the genre. Now let's take a look at what's here. Write a gritty urban fantasy first person narrative from an ancient supernatural leader's perspective. Incorporate intense dialogue filled with colloquial language. Now, what do I like to generally do? I like to end this and leave absolutely nothing inside of there. I don't like anything in my synopsis, nothing in my character, nothing in my outline. Now, what do I like doing up here? I do giving some form of a guidance for the style and a little bit of the genre wrapped in there. So rather than putting it there in the character list, I like to go in and take my style guide and I like to grab it from here. So I like this one, but we can also do this one and let's do these two. I'm going to copy these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into Story Bible and I'm going to add this information here. So now I'm telling it exactly what kind of narrative I want. And I'm telling it what kind of scene I want. Now, let's take this a little bit further. Let's look at she is a firefighter and investigator. She spots smoke, right? So all of that is just like it was before. Smoke over the forest. She arrives in a truck. We get all this information. Sarah's instincts suggest arson, and Leo agrees. Now, again, we're going to see how it generates this information for us. Let's see, incident of unexplained fires. So, right here, let's say Sarah's findings compel her to consult. So, let's say that here, the two of them discuss it. They put it out, they're investigating. Sarah's instincts suggest arson. She takes pictures at the scene with her phone. She collects samples, her suspicion growing, and she finds, let's see, similar historic events. Sarah's findings compel her to consult with Lena, the town's historian, about similar historical events. Now, this is the transition. Now, because it's saying that, it can confuse the LLM. And what I would do is I would take this and right here, I would add some of that information here. And here I would say, I want her to take pictures. Remember, she takes pictures at the scene with her phone as she walks the area. She notices some additional burn patterns that are odd and intricate. Now, I want this intricate pattern that she is seeing. I want this and intriguing. I want this intriguing pattern to be something that kind of sparks her imagination. She knows she's seen it before, but where? She's unsure. She doesn't know where she has seen it before. Now, we can have, remember, one and two will go together, three and four. So we have three and four right here. Those are going to go together. Sarah's findings compel her to consult with Lena, the town. So Sarah leaves the area. Sarah leaves the scene of the crime. Her findings compel her, and we can say she's driving. Her findings compel her to consult with Lena, the town historian, about similar historical events that had the same pattern. And we're going to state Lena is a trusted and valued resource. Let's see, resource for the fire department. Let's see what the LLM says, but I can always change that if I need to in edits. Lena reveals past incidences of unexplained fires, hinting at supernatural causes, but not stating that. Let's see, Sarah's skepticism. It reveals, let's see, Sarah's skepticism clashes with the revelation, driving her to probe further. She sees images of people of people in the photographs. One person is at most of the locations. Robert. And we're going to say which she finds suspicious. And she asks Lena. So notice I put some dialogue in there. Sarah's determination to protect Willow Creek, stemming from her childhood trauma. Now, remember, I removed that. So I'm going to put in parentheses her childhood trauma. So I'm telling the LLM that what I want to kind of see in her dream and how I want her trapped in that for a moment. It drives her deeper into the mystery, and it's going to drive her to want to solve that. Her resolve leads to her confronting Robert. Now, is she confronting him right now? 4 and 5 go together. Her resolve leads her to want to confront Robert, seeking his to seek his input as a witness, as a potential witness. Now, we haven't determined what he is yet. So, why don't we say his law office? And she wants to give him a chance to explain how he's in several prior images taken of other mysterious fires. Also, we're going to want to make a comment about how there have been a lot of fires. So let's say we're transitioning into 5. We're going to say So this allows her to be able to say that there have been 5 fires in as many weeks, studying him to see how he reacts. Now, him, if I didn't have a character list, him could be a brand new person that the LLM mentions. So I'm going to put Robert here, but because I have a character list, the LLM should be able to infer, but I don't want to leave that to chance. So Robert, see, propels her. Let's see. He's defensive and points a finger back at Sarah, stating she's the only one he knows of who has started a fire. So that can remain. Now, here it says she uncovers a strange symbol near the fire's origin. Now, we need to have her leave, remember? Right here, right before we get to 6, we need to have her leave. She's going back to the scene of the fire. That puts her to come back. Sarah uncovers a strange symbol near the fire's origin. So we already have her going there, and now 6 has her there. Sarah, while investigating, uncovers a strange symbol near the fire's origin. There we go. She decides to keep. So, as it's going, see the discovery of the symbol leads Sarah to believe she's close to uncovering the arsonist's identity. Sarah decides to keep the symbol discovery confidential, and venturing into the forest, she finds more clues. Okay, so now that we have this, I am going to, again, it will default to balance. Let's do most accurate, and let's do it again. Remember, I have nothing in my character list, nothing under the brain dump, the genre, the style, the synopsis, or the characters or outline. Everything is inside of my beats. Let's take a look at what it's going to do for us. Now, again, if you wanted to check your beats, you could make sure that everything is where it should be. We have all of our beats here, and now I'm going to hide them, and let's generate. As you can see, this is a really lengthy process, and I do go through my beats really with a fine tooth comb. Now, notice the difference whenever I put my style and genre inside of my header. Look at how my dialogue is flowing. Of course, it starts with smoke billowed above the treetops. It has a sinister sign. I would definitely take that out. I do like smoke billowed above the treetops. Sarah Jennings, firefighter and investigator, slammed on the brakes of her truck as she arrived at the edge. Now, what did I do here? This is in third. So, this is why earlier I told you you have to make sure what you have here. Now, this is in first person and past tense. One of the things that I've noticed with the LLM is often that maybe the opening of it will have several sections that is in maybe third person, then all of a sudden it switches back to first. So I do encounter this. And when this happens, I then have to go in and make changes. Now, for an incident like this, because I already have that it needs to be first person, it has started it out here talking about her, and it has Leo, her fellow firefighter. All of this is in third. It should be in first, but take a look down here. I've seen this pattern before, but I can't remember where. Exactly, she agreed, collecting samples. She's telling him that she's seen the pattern. This is still Leo. She's still in third person. Again, it's only giving me third person. So I'm going to stop this by hitting the refresh. Again, I have Sarah Jennings, first person. This is my first person POV. And I also have it generating a narrative featuring a gritty. I want to make sure that there's nothing in here stating that it's third, which there isn't. And I can even state, write a gritty UF first person narrative. So it should be following the narrative. So let's go down. I am going to kill this information here. Or actually, let's just go ahead and do another. I'm going to copy this. And let's go ahead and create a new number 1. Let's go down to the bottom and let's drag it up. And let's put a C. And again, I have first person POV past tense. I have first person down here as well. And I have beat 1 here. So let's see what it does. I am going to remember it defaults to balance. I'm going to hit most accurate. And let's see what it does. And again, it is doing third person. So let's refresh. So let's see. And let's try it again. I am going to kill this information right here that it started. And I'm going to restart it. It's on most accurate. I'm restarting. And there it is. Now, there shouldn't have been any reason why it was not doing it in first person. I shouldn't have had to have put it here. And the only reason why I tried putting it here is because in the past, whenever I've done about 50, anywhere from 50 to say 110 beats in one card to generate about 20 to 24,000 words for a single story, I have actually alternated anywhere from every 6 to 10 beats with one name and then put the next person's name. So let's take a look. Smoke billowed over the forest, dark and ominous like a gathering storm. I gripped the steering wheel and floored the accelerator, a heart pounding as I raced to the scene in my truck. This was the 5th fire in as many weeks, and I was determined to find out why. As I arrived at the edge of the smoldering inferno, I spotted Leo already working to extinguish the flames. "Hey, Sarah," he shouted over the roar of the fire. "Glad you could make it. We need all hands on deck." Okay, we have this. It is following the information that I have up in the header. It is first person again, so let's see. Look at these burn patterns. He frowns, examining the scorch marks. I pull out my phone and snap some photographs. That is definitely something that I have added into the beats. I'll get this truck back to the station and let the chief know what we found. Thanks, I replied, watching him drive away. Alone now, I walked the area for additional clues, and the more I searched, the more I became convinced that arson was at play. The intricate burn patterns seemed eerily familiar, but I couldn't quite place where I'd seen them before. So again, I do like the way that it feels. I see less of that information about the inferno. It's not repeating that repetitive information that was being pulled straight out of my character list. And that's why I'm saying I try to avoid putting stuff in my character list when possible. Now, if I'm doing an alien sci fi romance, sometimes I do some lore or character information when I'm doing an alien sci fi romance or something that might have very specific hardcore sci-fi information in it, I'll put in the character list. But I generally tend to try and keep it as slim as possible. I couldn't shake the feeling that these fires were anything but accidental. With Leo gone, I climbed into my F 150 and headed toward the town's library. Lena Murphy, the town's historian, had always been a valuable resource for Willow Creek's fire department. If anyone could provide insight on similar historic events, it would be her. Now, just that little bit of information that I put in there gives more credence to why she's going and talking to her. So here it's talking about going to see her, and it says, "Ah, Sarah, what brings you here today?" So there needs to be a transition here. Right now, it is going from her thinking about the woman to wham, running right into her. So we need a transition in there. So that is something that I would need to write in. So here it says, "Ah, Sarah, what brings you here today?" Her eyes scanning the photos on my phone. So this needs to be expanded. And I could maybe do that with the rewrite tool or the expand, but I actually prefer to do that myself when I'm doing edits. So here, unexplained indeed, Lena replied, her voice tinged with hesitation. There have been whispers of supernatural occurrences. Now, do I want to say supernatural? Now, supernatural could also be unusual weather patterns or occurrences, or maybe Lena has that kind of feel to her. Let's see, she pulled out a dusty binder filled with old newspaper clippings and photographs, pointing out the same intricate burn patterns I'd seen at the scene. "Is that Robert Hathorne?" I asked, noticing a familiar face among the people captured in the images. "As a teenager?" "Let me see," Lena said. And remember, I said that she was going to slide her glasses? She's sliding them up her nose. She squinted at the photograph before nodding. "Why, yes, it sure looks like him." Again, whatever you put inside of your beats to give direction, you will find inside of your prose. So let's see. Unable to shake the feeling that Robert held the answers I sought, I decided to confront him. I drove to his law office, my heart pounding with each mile. So I'd probably change that because heart pounding is something that you see frequently with the AI. As much as I wanted to give him a chance to explain his presence in these photographs, I couldn't ignore the nagging suspicion that he was somehow involved in these mysterious fires. Now, again, here we have a lack of a transition. She is thinking here, she is still driving over there, and then wham, she is talking to Robert. There needs to be a transition here. "Robert," I said as I entered his office, "we need to talk." I studied Robert's face as I mentioned the 5 fires in as many weeks. Okay, she's mentioning them. If you're going to state that you're mentioning the fires in narrative, you might as well rewrite that with dialogue and make it active and have that banter between them. So this I would turn into dialogue. And him saying, "Of course, it's concerning," he said, "but surely the fire department is doing everything they can to find the cause, right?" "Absolutely," I replied, my suspicion growing with every word, "but I can't help noticing that you've been present at several past incidences." Robert's jaw clenched and he shot me a defensive glare. "Sarah, are you accusing me of something? Because last time I checked, you're the only one I know who has started a fire." So again, that plants that little egg. I can either make it more obtuse or I can make it that on the nose. So again, I can either put some subtext into the dialogue or I can keep it on the nose. Let's not go there, Robert, I warned, my anger flaring. Our conversation was going nowhere, and his evasiveness only fueled my determination to get to the bottom of the mystery. So here she's walking out. Here it talks about I left the office and drove back to the scene. As I walked around the charred remains, a glint caught my eye. Now, this is a better transition right here because it's stating that she left the office, she drove back to the scene, and then as she walks around, so now we know that order of the flow of the story, we've been oriented to it as a reader. She crouches down. I uncover a strange symbol, seemingly still burning into the ground. Remember, I wrote that into the beats and it conveyed that and added that into the body of work. I made a decision then and there to keep the simple discovery confidential. The last thing I needed was for the news to get wind of it, causing panic in Willow Creek. So my phone rang, startling me out of my thoughts. It was Leo. Hey, Sarah, where are you? Just investigating at the scene. I think I might be onto something. Need some backup? Thanks, but I got this covered, I said with forced confidence. I'll fill you in when I get back at the station. Let's see, I ended the call knowing that my decision to investigate alone could potentially put me in danger. No, so she's intruding. She's having a thought that she really shouldn't be having. She doesn't know if there's a danger, so I would just say I ended the call and I would not put this stuff there. As I ventured further into the forest, the air grew cooler, casting an eerie quiet over the landscape, despite my lack of knowledge about the masquerade. So she can't know anything about the masquerade. So the masquerade, remember, is something that they have to uphold. Now, if I needed to go back and see where I had masquerade, I could definitely do that. So let's do a control find and look, there are 5 occurrences of masquerade. So let's take a look. Right here, I have that inside of my notes. And I definitely want that in there. Now, did I need to have it in chapter 1? Not necessarily. But because I have it in a generic template, that's where it's at. Now, again, you have to think about where you have words and how it can impact your prose. So in this instance, I have 5 occurrences of the word masquerade here. I have one here, and let's see where the second is right here in my percentage instructions. I have it down here, nothing of the masquerades. So Sarah knows nothing. It did not pay attention to her not knowing anything about it, but it did state that she didn't know anything about the masquerade. So the LLM will actually bring up this information. And this is how this information gets fed into your manuscript. So again, if you don't want this information inside of your body of work, then do not reveal it until it's ready to be revealed. So there are three, right now I have found 3 of them. Let's see where number 4 is. Number 4 is despite my lack of knowledge about the masquerade. So again, this would have to be revised because she knows nothing about that. Now, she could have an unease as she's searching for the clues. There can be a nagging feeling that there was more to the fires. I definitely wouldn't say than met the eye because that's really cliche. Now, the further I went, the more I began to uncover charred branches, scorched earth, all of that's okay. Now, here it says, stay focused, Sarah. I don't like my characters talking to themselves. Now, she can have an internal thought that I can put inside of italics, and that would be fine. My findings in the forest painted a picture that I couldn't quite comprehend, setting the stage for a potential confrontation with the unknown. What is the unknown? Now, I'd probably change that. And here she's talking to herself again, and I don't want her talking to herself. Now, I might put some internal thought in here, and maybe it might be a past memory or a statement or something that's maybe rattling around in her head. Maybe it's something that Lena has said. That I might put in there to make her think something. As I pressed on deeper into the woods, I felt a growing sense of determination. Yeah, we don't no determination there. We're going to kill determination. I would uncover the truth behind these fires, no matter what it took. Little did I know that the path. So this right here is one of those little bows, and there, it's a little bow that's being tied up nice and neat, and I would kill those. I'd probably kill this whole section right here. And then I'd give her some internal thought here that is not, come on, Sarah, you've got this, because we don't want that. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched as I made my way out of the forest. So prior to saying this, she needs to actually show that. There needs to be something in there that makes her think that she's being watched. Maybe the hair on the back of her neck. Maybe she glances off to the side because she gets goosebumps. I need to have some form of a reaction to her feeling this way. And that is something that I will have to add in as an author. Stay alert again. She's talking to herself. I had barely taken a few steps when I heard a rustling of vegetation. Now, I like this better than what was up here, and I might move this whole section up a little higher. So I had barely taken a few steps when I heard a rustling of vegetation nearby. A shadowy figure darted among the trees, catching my attention. Suddenly faced with the decision, fight or flight, I hesitated for a split second before choosing to pursue the mysterious lead. Hey, stop, I called out, my voice echoing. So again, that was something that I put inside of my beats. And that shows you the content that you put in your beat, make sure that it's flowing in chronological order and make sure that it is action. As long as you have action, it gives the LLM something to be able to draw off of. Showing her I ran, I could only catch fleeting glimpses of the figure ahead of me, always just out of reach. The further we ventured into the forest, the more disoriented I became. The landscape grew increasingly unfamiliar. Now, is that true? Now, that could be true even though she's lived there all her life. It may not be something that she does. She may not run into a dense landscape of vegetation, trees, forest. So that very well could be true. Suddenly, the figure vanished from sight. Now, suddenly, no, it didn't. Just showed the figure vanishing or her unable to see it. Maybe the person has maybe there's a drop off and she loses sight of the individual. And when she comes to the drop off, maybe that's where she notices she has lost sight of him. I would prefer that than it just vanishing. My heart sank as I came to a stop, panting heavily and listening intently for any sign of movement. The woods were eerily silent, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of defeat. I couldn't help but feel a pang of defeat. I could put something else there. Damn it, I muttered, my hands on my knees as I caught my breath. Where did they go? Or where did he go? I need to make sure that the image of the individual makes her think of a Mel. The shadowy figure had disappeared into the depths of the forest, leaving me with more questions than answers. So I would kill this part right here and just leave it with, damn it, I muttered, my hands on my knees as I caught my breath. Where the hell did he go? That's how I would have ended that chapter. So I hope that this has helped you to be able to take a look at the beats and be able to see how I scrub them and actually looking at the three different generations. And the second generation was actually interesting because of some of the content that it put in there. And the third generation, which is C, was interesting because it began to start to give it to me in third, but then it changed. Now, again, I generally do not have to write that it is first person here unless I'm alternating like 10 beats in her POV and then the next 10 I'm doing in his. I can definitely alternate and have written first person, her POV all the way down for 10. And then I could have put some of his POV in his, chapter down underneath it. So and I do that sometimes. Sometimes I'll run a total of 20 beats or 50 beats in one card, but I will alternate, and I've not had an issue with that. So I was a little surprised today that it was actually generating in third person past, even though I had clear instructions to do it in first POV or first person POV past tense when it was already generating fine prior. So if you have any questions or thoughts, let me know. I'm more than happy to answer them. Again, I know this was a long video and I took a long time going over the beats, but I wanted to show you what happens when you leave specific information inside of your character list because it will bleed into the rest of your body of work. Even if you have something inside of your header and you have repetitive information in there, it can cause the LLM to repeat the information over and over again inside of your body of work. So be conscientious of the information that you are providing to the LLM if you do not want it to repeat specific information. So that wraps up our second segment in the Willow Creek here at AI Writers Connection. We dove into the finishing the 21 chapters. We explored beats for chapter number 1 and brought it to life with Sudowrite's Story Bible. We will have future segments where I will go through, say, chapter 2 through 21, just because I want you to be able to see that process and how I move from one chapter to the next. I will record each one of these. I will not do any type of pre-editing beforehand. So this will be a really long segment for people to see just how much goes into the process of scrubbing the beats, getting them the way that I want. And it doesn't always mean that the LLM is going to pay attention. So be on the lookout for those additional segments that will be coming out. Now, I hope this journey has actually been helpful for you and that it has been as much fun for you as it was for me. Remember, Willow Creek is our canvas, and the stories that we all create here are limited only by our imagination. Now, don't forget to join our Discord to be part of this creative, imaginative journey. And if you have your own Willow Creek story brewing, we'd love to hear about it. Until our next literary adventure, keep weaving those narratives. And if you liked what you saw today, be sure to ring the bell, like this video, and set up notifications. And of course, leave a comment and subscribe. Again, I want to invite you to our Discord where we continue to have talks about AI and writing as a craft. So this is Miracle signing off. Keep writing and stay inspired.